7 years. That's how long a father waited, hoping, praying, not knowing if his son was even alive. And when the truth finally came, it arrived in the most unexpected way, through a simple burglary call in Colorado. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Serial Crime Chronicles for newcomers to this channel. If you love true stories, this channel was made for you. We post true crime stories they thought they buried every day. If this interests you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you always get the latest content. Your support means a lot. Don't forget to hit the like button. As I've told you before, the like button is a simple gesture for you, but for me it's something huge because it helps YouTube know that people like my content and shows it to more new people. So please don't forget to support me by hitting that like button. Today, we're unraveling a story of love twisted into obsession, of a boy stolen not by a stranger, but by the very person who gave him life. This is a case of Abdul Aziz Khan, a child whose disappearance haunted investigators, tore apart a family, and ended in a rescue no one saw coming. We'll travel back to Atlanta, Georgia, November 2017, to the moment a custody battle spiraled into a national manhunt, and follow it all the way to that fateful winter day in 2025 when a cold case cracked wide open. The autumn air in Atlanta carried a crisp chill that year. Neighborhood trees stood bare, and the hum of city life was settling into its holiday rhythm. But inside one quiet suburban home, tension ran thick. 7-year-old Abdul Aziz Khan lived between two worlds, his father's home and the visits with his mother, Rabia Khalid. Their marriage had ended bitterly, and the divorce proceedings had been just as turbulent. The court had granted custody to Abdul's father, while Rabia retained visitation rights. On the morning of November 27, 2017, Abdul's father expected to see his son return home after a routine visit. Instead, hours passed. Calls went unanswered. The clock ticked into evening, and Abdul was nowhere to be found. When police were called, the situation was at first confusing. After all, parents take their kid without notice all the time during custody disputes. But by nightfall, the tone had changed. Rabia wasn't just late. She had vanished. So had her new husband, Elliot Blake Bourgeois. The father's worst fear crystallized. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was an abduction. For police, parental kidnappings are uniquely frustrating. It's not a faceless predator hiding in the shadows. It's someone the child knows, trusts, and often loves. But that doesn't make it any less dangerous. And in Abdul's case, the signs pointed to a long, calculated plan. Rabia hadn't shown up to a scheduled custody hearing that very morning. Investigators later discovered she had emptied her apartment, drained accounts, and cut off known contacts. Elliot, a man with no real ties to Georgia, had done the same. It was as if they'd evaporated. Within days, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, issued an alert. Abdul's photo, a sweet-faced boy with deep brown eyes, began circulating nationwide. He was listed as abducted by a parent, a category that gets less media attention than stranger abductions, but can be just as impossible to solve. Searches led nowhere. The couple had no digital trail, no phone activity, no credit cards, no property leases in their names. Detectives suspected forged IDs and a network of people willing to hide them. Months turned into years. Leads dried up. Abdul's father clung to hope, working with the U.S. Marshals Service and private investigators. But every tip ended in another dead end. By 2020, the case had gone cold. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, which slowed law enforcement coordination even further. For most missing children in such circumstances, the trail cools permanently. Without new evidence or major break, the odds of recovery shrink to almost nothing. But Abdul's father refused to let the case disappear entirely. In 2023, the family's persistence paid off. Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries took notice. Producers dedicated an episode, Abducted by a Parent, to Abdul's story. They highlighted his face, his voice, and his father's desperate plea for help. The show aired nationwide, searing Abdul's image into the minds of millions. Tips poured in, but none led to a definitive location. Still, the exposure re-energized law enforcement. His face was now in databases, on posters, and in every officer's mind. To keep up with this series and even more interesting true crime stories that never came to light until now, hit the red subscribe button. Now back to the story. Fast forward to February 23rd, 2025. 7 years after Abdul's disappearance. In Highlands Ranch, Colorado, 1,400 miles from Atlanta, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office received a call about a possible burglary at a vacant home. It was a routine dispatch. No one responding could have imagined that inside that neighborhood, a missing boy was waiting, hidden in plain sight. Deputies arrived to find a man and a woman claiming they were real estate associates checking the property. They seemed calm, too calm, and said they had 2 kids waiting in their vehicle outside. For the deputies, something felt off. Maybe it was a way the pair avoided eye contact. Maybe it was a hesitation in their answers. Or maybe it was just instinct, honed from years of seeing trouble disguised as normalcy. One deputy walked to the car, where 2 children sat quietly. The older boy looked up, a little taller now, teenage shoulders filling his jacket. But behind those eyes, something stirred. Recognition. The officer returned to his partner and spoke quietly. They'd need to dig deeper. A lot deeper. What happened over the next few hours would shatter 7 years of silence. And it all started with a question. Son, what's your name? The moment the truth came out, how a burglary call became a rescue operation, and how deputies confirmed they were looking at the boy America had been searching for since 2017. A vacant home, 2 suspicious adults, and in the backseat of a parked car, the face from a missing child posted 7 years old. We followed Abdul Aziz Khan's disappearance in 2017, a custody visit turned abduction, and how years of searching brought no answers. Now, we step into the winter of 2025, where a seemingly ordinary burglary call in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, would crack the case wide open. What you're about to hear is how trained instincts, relentless digging, and a little luck pulled a boy out of the shadows and back into the arms of his family. At 3:37 p.m. on February 23rd, 2025, Douglas County deputies rolled up to a quiet cul-de-sac. The complaint was straightforward. Neighbors had spotted 2 people entering a vacant property without permission. When officers arrived, they found a man and a woman on the property, both claiming to be real estate associates checking the place for a client. The woman introduced herself as Samantha Bourgeois. The man gave his name as Elliot. Parked just up the street was their car, engine off, windows slightly fogged from the cold. Inside sat 2 children, the older one watching the officers with wary, unblinking eyes. On paper, nothing screamed danger. The pair had an explanation, but officers noticed subtle tells. Their story shifted in small ways each time it was repeated. They avoided direct answers about who owned the car, who the kids were. Their body language was closed, defensive, shoulders hunched, arms crossed tight. One deputy decided to split the parties up, standard procedure to catch inconsistencies. Another approached the car, crouched by the window, and tried a friendly hello. The older boy hesitated before speaking. His voice was low, almost guarded. "My name's Aziz," he said, as if tasting a word for the first time in years. Aziz. The deputy knew the name from somewhere. Not yesterday's crime brief, not a local missing kid, something older. Back at the patrol car, the name was run through the NCIC database, the National Crime Information Center. Within seconds, the screen lit up. Match found. Abdul Aziz Khan. Missing from Georgia since November 27, 2017. Age at disappearance, 7. Current age, 14. Status, endangered missing. The deputy's breath caught. This wasn't just a burglary call anymore. This was a recovery in progress. From that moment, the tone shifted. Deputies quietly called in backup, locking down the scene without alarming the suspects. They separated the children from the adults under the guise of routine questioning. Inside the patrol SUV, officers gently asked Abdul more questions. At first, he seemed unsure, as if speaking the truth might trigger some invisible punishment. But over the next 5 hours, details began spilling out. Yes, his name was Abdul. Yes, the woman outside was his mother. No, he hadn't seen his father in years. He'd been living under different names, in different states, moving whenever things got too close. Once deputies confirmed Abdul's identity through photos and physical descriptors, the hammer dropped. Rabia colored. still insisting she was Samantha, was taken into custody on the spot. Elliot Blake Bourgeois, her husband and partner in the years-long concealment, was cuffed beside her. To keep up with this series and even more interesting true crime stories that never came to light until now, hit the red subscribe button. Now back to the story. As the news hit the sheriff's radio, the energy was electric. Even hardened officers felt the weight of the moment. Sheriff Darren weekly later told reporters, "There wasn't a dry eye in the room. We realized we had just reunited a family after 7 years apart." That evening, law enforcement made the call Abdul's father had been waiting for since 2017. The words hardly seemed real. "We found your son." When Abdul was brought into the safe, warm sheriff's office, he stood a little taller than the boy from the old posters. His hair was longer, his eyes older, but behind him was the same child his father remembered. The two embraced in a moment that needed no words. 7 years of fear and searching collapsed into relief. News broke quickly. The case that had gone cold for so long was suddenly front-page material. Reporters highlighted the eerie twist that Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries had kept Abdul's face in the public consciousness, possibly influencing officers' instincts that day. Social media lit up with praise for the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, the U.S. Marshal Service, and the NCMEC. Parents across the country reposted Abdul's then and now images, celebrating a rare outcome in long-term missing child cases. But with the joy came questions. Where had Abdul been for 7 years? How had Rabia and Elliot evaded detection for so long? And what would happen to them now that they face charges? In the next chapter, we'll dive into the legal aftermath, the charges that shocked many, and the lingering mysteries of Abdul's lost years. His home. But after 7 years in hiding, the questions are just beginning. Where was Abdul all this time? And how does the law punish a mother who stole her own child? We traced Abdul's 2017 disappearance, a custody visit that turned into a 7-year abduction. We saw how a routine burglary call in Colorado exposed the truth, ending in a tearful reunion with his father. Now, we step into the courtroom and into the gray legal territory of parental abduction, where justice doesn't always feel as straightforward as it should. The day after Abdul's rescue, Douglas County Sheriff's Office held a press conference. Flanked by deputies and investigators, Sheriff Darren weakly laid it out plainly. This is a case about patience, persistence, and hope. And it's a reminder, never give up. Beside him were mugshots of Rabia Colored, now 40, and Elliot Blake Bourgeois, 42. Both looked nothing like their 2017 IDs. Hair darker, faces leaner, eyes hollow from years of looking over their shoulders. But while the emotional win was clear, the legal path ahead was complicated. Rabia Colored faced multiple felonies, including conspiracy to commit second-degree kidnapping, forgery, identity theft, first-degree criminal trespass. Her husband, Elliot Blake Bourgeois, was charged with second-degree kidnapping, forgery, identity theft, a criminal trespass. Both were held on $1 million bond each. The conspiracy charge for Rabia was key, because in Colorado and in many U.S. states, a biological parent technically cannot be charged with kidnapping their own child. But by proving she acted with another adult to conceal Abdul and create false identities, prosecutors could bring kidnapping-related charges through conspiracy statutes. As court proceedings began, investigators combed through the couple's movements over the past 7 years. What emerged was a patchwork of possible safe houses, forged documents, and cross-state relocations. But there were gaps, long stretches with no confirmed sightings, no paper trail. Where exactly had Abdul lived? Had he gone to school? Did he know he was missing? Or was he told a fabricated story about his father? Authorities hinted that Abdul had lived under at least 2 false names, possibly attending school in multiple states before landing in Colorado. But details remained tightly sealed, partly to protect his privacy, partly because the investigation may still extend to others who helped hide them. Experts in child recovery say Abdul's adjustment will be complex. On one hand, he's reunited with a father who never stopped looking for him. On the other, he spent nearly half his life in a different reality, a life orchestrated by the very person who abducted him. Dr. Elaine Porter, a family trauma specialist, explained it on a morning news segment. These reunions are joyous, but they are also disorienting. You have to rebuild trust, reconcile conflicting narratives, and process years of absence. For Abdul's father, the joy is tempered by the awareness that rebuilding their relationship will take time and patience. The case sparked national conversation about parental abduction laws. Many viewers were shocked to learn that in most U.S. jurisdictions, taking your own child, even in violation of a custody order, isn't legally kidnapping unless certain conditions are met. Advocates call for reforms, pointing out that children in such cases can suffer just as much trauma as those taken by strangers. Others argue that the law should distinguish between stranger danger and parental disputes. For Abdul's case, the public sentiment was clear. 7 years of hiding, deception, and alienation from a parent is not just a custody matter, it's a crime. For now, Abdul is safe. He's back with his father in Georgia, surrounded by extended family and professional support. Law enforcement has closed a missing portion of his case, shifting focus of prosecution and any other individuals who may have helped Rabia and Elliot during those years. The family has asked for privacy, but Abdul's father released a short statement. 7 years of pain ended in a moment I'll never forget. My son is home. We have a lifetime to make up for, and we'll do it together. And so, a story that began in secrecy ends in a public courtroom. A boy stolen is a boy found. But justice, healing, and truth, those take longer than any trial. What do you think? Should laws treat parental abduction the same as kidnapping by a stranger? And where do you think Abdul was during those missing years? Drop your thoughts below, because this is a conversation that goes beyond one case. If you've made it this far, you know how rare this outcome is. Like this video to help spread awareness about missing children. Subscribe for more true crime deep dives. And remember, hope is never wasted. Like, comment, and subscribe to the Serial Crime Chronicles, where every crime has a witness, and every truth will be told for more true crime stories. See you in the next episode, and thanks for watching.